Hello and welcome to another episode of They Don't Teach This in Law School. I'm your host, Charley Mann of Law Firm Alchemy, and another awesome solo episode for you today, inspired by some recent experiences in and around my household. But of course, we have to have our gateway into all of this, which is to answer the question, what is the one thing they don't teach you in law school? And in this case, the thing that they don't teach you is how to defy the expectations, specifically the service expectations that your clients have in terms of dealing with lawyers. So, well, we've got Wicked in theaters, and that's all about defying gravity. This is about defying the expectations that people have about interacting with lawyers and how valuable that can be. The reason I want to have this discussion is because of a recent experience, or an ongoing experience, I should say, at our house. So, we have a water main burst out in our front yard. So the line from the main water supply to our house, the pipe has burst. And so obviously we've been calling around service companies, yada, yada, all that stuff. And we just had a service company come out to take a look at the water line. And it's interesting. So this is a company that I've actually dealt with before. And the first time that I ever dealt with the company had to do with, we've just had ongoing water issues in the house. I won't bore you with all of the details here, but the issue that they first came out to help us out with was essentially the point where the water comes into the house. The valve and the regulator for water pressure just was not functioning anymore. We couldn't keep an eye on water pressure. There were questions about why do we have low water pressure, yada, yada, yada. Just issues with the home that we needed to respond to. And so we called them, had them come out to do an estimate. And when the technician came out, this guy was truly just affable, completely. Well, he leaned into some of the stereotypes of a technician. He defied many others. So the stereotypes that he sort of leaned into were, he wasn't necessarily the best dressed. It wasn't, perfectly cleanly, to say the least, but he had on the button-up shirt that was supplied to him by the company, a reasonable appearance, bucket hat on, a good grin on his face and everything. So it's sort of a stereotypical affable service technician. But what was awesome is when he came in the house, first off, just extremely nice, kind of elevated energy for it being as early in the morning that it actually was. And when we went to go look at the water line, he was really good at explaining, both sort of naming the jargon involved in it, and then immediately sort of saying, and this is what it means for you. Right. So he would talk about like the regulator, yada, yada, yada. And he would say like, and so that might be why you are experiencing this, this, and this, because the regulator's job is to do this. Of course, you want to be able to monitor the ongoing pressure in the house. Some people like it higher, some people like it lower. Here's my recommendation. Just really good at a delivery of information that both showed a level of expertise and also showed a level of understanding the homeowner. Now, I'm fortunate enough, I do a lot of DIY projects. And so some of the jargon I already know, but I always appreciate someone who brings it back down to my level. Because let's say it's not going to be me who's at home when the service appointment actually occurs after we've done the estimate. If it's going to be my wife at home, I want to know that we're going to have a clear communicator. So that way, if there are decisions that need to be made on the day, that can happen. Now, hopefully you've already heard like a dozen different ways that you can apply this concept to your law firm. The clear communications, the showing expertise via jargon, but immediately anchoring it in things that the person can understand, and the practical application of what you do. Because for all the intellectual high-mindedness of what you do, which is extraordinary, obviously what matters to the client is only what matters to the client. So rather than speaking in legalese, are we speaking in clientese? Are we letting them know what impact something like subrogation may have on them? Are we helping them really understand the difference between will-based and trust-based planning? There are all of these nuances that go into the decisions they need to make, which, like with a service technician coming to our house, there are decisions that we need to make, but we want to make them in an informed manner. We want to feel confident in our choices and not that we're being tricked into something. Your client doesn't want to feel leveraged into a decision. They want to be a confident decision maker who seems to be making a decision based on your best recommendation, coupled with how they tend to make decisions. And this is key here with the type of clients that you attract overall. well. So if you're attracting clients whose default is always just cheapest option possible, that's going to be a problem for you. On the other hand, if you tend to attract clients who respect expertise because the type of advertising that you do goes towards this exact same concept of high level, having jargon, but immediately explain to demonstrate the expertise, case studies as well. This is the other thing our service technician did really, really well, is he was great at mentioning like, oh yeah, did a job like this recently. That just puts us at ease, because I don't know, are they sending out a generalist for us who this is going to be one of 3 that they're going to do of this in the year? Or is this a person who's doing one of these at least every single month? That helps put our minds at ease. Same conditions for the clients of your law firm. They want to know that this is work that you are actively handling, that you have experience in their type of cases. And one of the best ways to demonstrate that is to verbally demonstrate it. That is to say, oh, in your type of circumstance, and we've actually handled a case like this within the last year, we can see a couple of correlating fact patterns here. And this is what we ended up doing in that case. Here's how I might edit it for yours because of this exacerbating factor over here. And then they're seeing this expertise coupled with relating to work that they have already done, showing legitimate experience in their particular legal need. And then they're seeing you strategize at the same time, this demonstration of your expertise. And when we can combine all of those things together, it is super powerful for your client. And the best part is you're helping the client make a confident decision. And when they make a confident decision, it is easier for them to justify a higher financial commitment. It is easier for them to explain to the people in their life why they chose you. And it just generally puts them at ease. It helps eliminate a level of buyer's remorse that can happen. We almost want to have the old adage for them of like buy once, cry once, which you hear in a lot of sort of hobbyist or tool communities. You want to buy the good thing one time, cry over that, but then enjoy it for the rest of your life rather than buying the cheap version and then crying over it when you have to buy the expensive, when the cheap version breaks down and when you have to buy the expensive version because you realize that's what you should have bought all along. Buy once, cry once. So the service technician really just delivered on being providing a great experience for us. So much so that in the same location, we had our water heater. And he noticed that the expansion tank on our water heater was improperly installed. It was installed with the wrong, I don't know if it was supposed to be installed with the cold or the hot, but basically it was in the wrong place. And like a quick Googling showed, oh yeah, he's absolutely right. And he noticed that and said, ooh, you also have this galvanized pipe here. That's not really, he basically said like, this looks like a really cheap installation. Here's a couple of recommendations. And we were already in the process of knowing that this water heater was probably going to need to be replaced within the next couple of years. And he managed to make a big old upsell right there because of this really swift transference of I'm showing you my expertise in the initial matter, which is like a $600 replacement or something. We're talking Northern Virginia labor prices up here. It's very, very expensive, just pretty much anything. And I don't really like to go towards the cheap route. Getting it done cheap, like again, buy once, cry once is a philosophy that I tend to follow myself. So when he started recommending that, it's okay, let's at least explore this. What he did a great job of was laying out the options and being willing to say, here's what I would do. Like if this were my house, here's what I would do. That type of framework is also really accessible for, say, your associates or non-attorney salespeople, where they can say, look, if I were in your position, here's what I'd be thinking about. That helps anchor people when they don't have a clue what goes into the legal work that you do or what surrounds the legal problem they're facing. That simple framework of here's what I'd be thinking about, or here's what I would probably do in your situation. It's very powerful. Now you notice I'm giving both of those text variations because there are certain lines that you can or cannot walk up to. In terms of giving the client advice. Like you probably don't want your intake specialist saying, here's what I would do in your situation. That probably walks up and past the line of legal advice, right? So unless their advice is, look, if I were in your situation, I would 100% be sitting down with an attorney to talk about this, at least to know my options. That is something that they can say, right? So we walk up to the limits of what is available to us linguistically and ethically, morally, and legally in terms of keeping your license. So we have this service technician. He manages to make this incredible upsell. So he's done a few things. Also, by the way, he upsold me into the ongoing service package, right? The thing that a lot of folks are like, oh, you should never buy the ongoing service package. Well, he absolutely sold me into it. It literally for the year. And I know that this is a little bit of a pricing gimmick, but because of the expense of what we were about to do, it literally costs less for us to join the service package for the year. Now, it will cost more if we just kind of accidentally keep ourselves in the service package year after year after year and don't use any benefits from it. But whatever. At that point in time, I'm an exhausted homeowner. I'm willing to pay to just make life easier. And this is going to make life easier for me. That's another reason, by the way, to target clients of means. If you are in a practice that has an hourly or a fixed fee billing system, having clients who are of means who can make these types of decisions and pay the premium to get the type of service they want, that's the value that you get from it. Is they go, okay, yeah, I'm going to buy that because I want it done right and I want it done well. And ideally, I want it done in a timely fashion and people will pay a premium. I was just talking with a coaching client about this recently, actually, about the idea of paying for premium response time. He found out that he had a client basically a while ago, called him up, and the person or like a real estate agent needed a deed done or something. He was like, yeah, sure. I guess I could turn it around for you. It's going to be a very fast turnaround. Literally need it next day. And he quoted a price. He was like, I mean, these people are going to say no, right? They said yes, got it, something that was more than like 2x his hourly rate, basically, and turned it around real quick for him. Good business, right? Turnaround times can make an impact. So he's managed to sell me into all of this stuff. And when it came time for us to deal with the issue that we're dealing with now, of course, I'm calling their company. Now, here's the issue. The technician who we had come out for this particular instance, not as good. Not nearly as affable, to say the least. I mean, really, when we had our original technician, whose name was Michael, versus the guy we just had, Brian, Michael, super affable, Brian, pretty standoffish, not really saying a lot, not asking a lot of questions, forcing me as the homeowner to be the one kind of prompting the discussions. Now, good news is at the end of the day, he was able to provide us with some helpful information and bring out the actual team that we need. Basically, he doesn't do the outside, what they call the dig work. So they have to go get a dig crew to give us the quote and estimate. So that's going to be our next step in all of this. This is happening live here, folks. Hopefully by the time you hear this episode, we're basically at a resolution point, but we'll see. So this technician comes out, and we don't have the same confidence. Whereas with the first technician, Michael, it's very easy to justify prices. With this technician, there was a feeling like, hey, if we get a quote that feels a little too high, we're going to go get quotes from other people. And I understand, that's something that we can still think about, but you do your online, we've done some of the online research. We had kind of estimates of where we would want this to land, et cetera, et cetera. So we knew that if there was a number that if he said it to us, it was an absolute default of we will go get more quotes because this is not a situation that makes us super comfortable. Whereas if it's someone who comes in super, really confident, can explain stuff to us. And that's the thing that this technician, Brian, didn't do as good of a job. He didn't really run us through here's what I'm thinking we're going to need to do. Here's how they would do it. Here's why I would want to do it that way. And if I were in your situation, that would be the thing I would opt for. And basically there's two types of, and this is really good comparison points when you're talking about strategy for a client and you want to demonstrate to them like different types of options. There's trench dig and backfill, which you can do. That's like the common version of replacing a water main. But they now have this thing called trenchless, which is almost like arthroscopic surgery for your pipes, where they can pull a pipe through the existing pipe system. I mean, it's just wild to replace the broken pipe. It's so cool. And so he mentioned this trenchless thing to us and kind of gave a basic explanation, but he didn't do a great job of saying like, look, here are the options. I would go for trenchless. You can absolutely do the trench thing. Here's what it's going to require. It's going to be a dig time. They're probably going to have to pull up your driveway. That's the other advantage to this trenchless thing. But he didn't really walk us through that. It was just very quick, like, hey, trench, yada, yada, yada. Not even yada, yada, yada. It was like, hey, we're going to do this trenchless thing. That's probably what's going to happen. I'll go and see if I can get, the dig crew out here for an estimate, maybe see if we can go ahead and get an estimate over the phone. Just not the same level of confidence. So hopefully when the dig crew comes out, they have that level of confidence in the recommendation. That is absolutely what your best clients are looking for. They are looking for your confidence. They are looking for your expertise. You can and should own it. Yes, people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And they may not know you at first. They want to get to know you. That's where we add in the personality. Obviously, personality plays into them liking you, but trusting you, that level of trust where they are going to trust their legal issue to you, their divorce, their bankruptcy filing, something that could potentially be the most significant financial decision that they will make maybe in their lifetime, depending on, say, the size of the personal injury case, the size of their estate, the size of assets in a divorce, etc. This could be a massive decision for them. So for them, they want to get someone that they believe will be a good partner in this process, who will keep them informed, who will potentially have good boundaries. That's the other thing, is great clients who are the type of clients who understand and respect boundaries, because they tend to see boundaries as good things. So for example, with any of the home service issues, I appreciate when they are very direct about, this will take X number of days. Don't lie to me about your turnaround time. Don't oversell me on it. It's a great way to destroy trust, because when you break your timelines, all of a sudden I'm going to start questioning everything else. I'm going to start wondering about the quality of the work, right? So you need to establish that level of trust. And early on, being able to speak directly to their needs, which we've addressed in other episodes of the podcast. We actually just addressed this in one of the last episodes about the power of specificity and how specificity can build trust and can build expertise for folks. And using all of that expertise and demonstration of your expertise, which in your cases tends to be demonstrated verbally through strategy, will anchor people in and will allow them to know, like, and trust you. And they will like and trust you because of your expertise. And they will get to know you because you can infuse it with some personality. Like Michael, the first guy who came out, plenty of personality. It was just fantastic. By the way, fun little story about when Michael came out. When he came out, I saw him outside. Like, you see the service trucks pull up, right? And you're like, okay, how long is it going to take before they actually come to the door? He was taking such a long time. I looked outside and he was picking stuff up off the ground. I was really confused by this. I had no clue what was going on. So he comes inside the house and I asked him how his day was going, and yada, yada, yada. We were kind of joking. He said, yeah, and I dropped my jelly beans outside. Don't know if you saw me. I was picking up all these jelly beans out of the gutter. So that's how I usually start my day, with jelly beans. As luck would have it, I had a carton of Jelly Belly jelly beans. I think it had been given to us I don't even remember like how we acquired these jelly beans, but no one had touched them, much less me. No one had touched these jelly beans. I was like, I'm about to make a friend out of Michael. So I brought him some jelly beans and made those his. And let me tell you what, that certainly bore out. Maybe that was the reason for the excellent service, right? Is giving a guy some jelly beans. That could be a whole other lesson, by the way, on how you treat your vendors is the level of service you may get from them. Be a good partner in any of your vendor relationships. Really, really valuable to do that. Hopefully your vendors, by the way, are providing that level of expertise, trust, authority that you are looking for from them. So anyhow, getting back to the core idea here, infuse your staff with the information they need to be confident communicators to your clients. And it is okay for them to say, hey, we've actually walked up to the line where my expertise will not serve you. At this point, this is where we need to bring in such and such person. Now, they need to know how to do that handoff, right? The intake specialist may say, hey, we've walked up to this very specific line known as legal advice. And as a team member, but not a lawyer here at the law firm, I actually can't take that next step with you, which is exactly why I want to schedule an appointment for you with one of our lawyers, because they can provide you with legal advice. They can go more in depth with you. Can we go ahead and get that scheduled as soon as possible? Because I really want you to get those answers. It's a great way to do the handoff and to show expertise by also knowing your limits. It's the same way that, a nurse can't prescribe medication. So you walk up to that line The nurse can say, hey, we need to bring in the doctor. The doctor may be able to write you a prescription for such and such, but he'll tell you what that's going to look like for you. Expertise can be shown in the boundaries themselves. So overall, make sure that your team understands what the client is going through and can establish that level of quality service and confidence for your clients. Before I sign off here, of course, we want to ask the question, what am I reading, watching, and listening to these days? So unfortunately, my watching hasn't changed because it's Severance still going on. That's probably going to be my answer for a little while now. My wife and I don't find a ton of time to watch TV. We are also, we did just recently wrap up watching Survivor season 47. I might have mentioned that already. Limited time in front of the TV. There's some YouTube channels that we like to watch with the kids, a lot of like crafting channels that they really enjoy. So that's some of the other stuff that we're into right now. In terms of reading, just about to wrap up Cue the Sun, which is about reality television that I mentioned last week. And then I'm digging back into the Dungeon Anarchist Cookbook, which is the third book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. I have a couple of reads that are about to matriculate to the top. I do want to recommend the One Day MBA for Lawyers by Jay Ruane. That's a fantastic resource that you should read. And then what I'm listening to these days is right now, actually, I'm listening to a lot of kind of 2000s music, just early aughts music. And that's been a treat to myself. I think some of it is the Peloton playlist. Frankly, that's what I'm listening to. All right, that's all for now. And I will see you in the next episode of They Don't Teach This in Law School.